Good evening, everyone. On behalf of New Delhi Institute of Management, we welcome you all to today's webinar. We would like to thank our friends from corporate world, academia, students from Pan India, NDIM students and faculty for joining us. Most of you have been connected with NDIM in various capacities for a long time, but for the benefit of those joining for the first time, NDIM was set up in 1992 and takes pride on its sole focus of excellence in business management programs. We are the only business school to be awarded by Government of India and CII for 3 years in a row as the best industry-linked management institute. By virtue of winning this award 3 times in a row, NDIM was elevated in India's first Mentor B School by AICT and CII in November 2019. Webinar series is an integral part of our contribution to society as a designated mentor business school. The topic for today's webinar is Emerging Trends in the New World, Future Skills and Jobs. While current situation holds a challenge for all of us, it brings a lot of opportunities also. To discuss skills and jobs required in future, we would like to invite our 4 eminent panelists. Our first panelist is Dr. Meeta Brahma, Head HR, NIT Limited. She is a double alumnus of IIT Delhi with senior executive experience in premier banking, software, consulting, and educational service organizations. In over 3 decades of experience, she has headed diverse functions ranging from operations and HR to marketing and sales. We are privileged to have our second panelist, Mr. Arun Prasad Kesari, Vice President, Employee Relations, HSBC. In his professional journey, he has been associated with large multinational companies in IT, telecom, FMCG, retail, and has been working in senior leadership positions. Previously, he has worked with British Telecom, Ericsson, Samsung, and NIS Ferta. We are delighted to have our third panelist, Dr. Jatinder Singh, Director, PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry. He has done MBA, LLB, MLM, PhD, and has 24 years of work experience. He has been closely working with industry and government through advisory and consultative processes on policy issues, regulatory initiatives, and lobbying with the government for policy changes. Our fourth speaker is Dr. Nitin Agarwal, Joint Director, Public Grievance Officer at Appellate Authority with Government of India. He has been handling and heading different verticals of HR, IT, training, procurement, and CSR. He has also worked with Government of India as an advisor on policy matters and technological interventions. The flow for today's webinar is that every panelist is given 10 minutes to speak. A quick note to all the participants. The panelists will be taking questions at the end of this session. You can ask questions by typing in the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen. May I now request Dr. Brahma to begin this webinar. Welcome you, ma'am. I want you to take it over. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much and good evening, everyone. So we have been talking of trends in the world of work for some time because technology being a driver, there have been huge changes. But of late, why so many webinars on this particular topic? Whereas there have been disruptions with each of the industrial waves, and it is obviously driven a lot by the COVID pandemic. So just want to ask all of you, how many of you have heard, for example, of the Spanish flu? I think now because of COVID, there has been more interest in that, and there have been more articles coming about it. So some of you would know that the Spanish flu, which came in about 1918 to 19, it killed about 5 crores of people worldwide. And apparently about 2 crores of people were dead in India alone. And there were repeated, waves of flu till 1920. And if you have been looking at the articles and some of the pictures, there are so many similarities. At that time also people, on the streets were wearing these masks which were covering their chins and mouth and nose. And at that time also, all non-essential meetings got banned, travel was banned. But what happened after 1920, as the world returned to normal? Pretty much, I won't say people forgot about it, but within a year or two, again, whether it was movie halls, whether it was restaurants or markets or streets, people were back to normal. Now, the point I'm trying to say is that man is essentially, a social being, and most of the things will return, yes, to a little different normal, slightly new normal, but it is not the way it looks right now, that, as if things will never be normal again. Things will be almost back to a similar normal. So that is the first thing I think we have to face up. And even the technology driven companies like whether it is Google, Sundar Pichai of Google, or whether it is Facebook, they have all talked about a staggered coming back to normal. Why is that? Because there is an amount of energy we get with working with each other. And so in that sense, I don't think the world of work will change so much. There have been changes all along in the last couple of years, and yes, it has accelerated. But we must expect a lot of things to go back to almost the way they were. Now, what are the things we feel that they will not go back to? What are the changes? So some things which I am seeing all around and I would like to share. So, for example, something like remote working, working in virtually, was reserved for a few roles till now in the industry, and in let's say banking or healthcare or wherever, the people who once in a while worked in a remote mode, it was taken as a temporary affair. However, now we know that large proportions of at least technology driven companies are working in a remote fashion, and even their supervisors and have been surprised by how fast people have changed over, how resilient they have been, and how productive they are in the new method. So I think this is certainly going to stay, that people will work in a remote fashion, large proportions of them. They will be better at it. So which means that they will be better at managing their own tech support. They will be better at managing communicative and collaborative tools which enable virtual work. It means that managers are going to get better at supervising their teams in a remote fashion. It means that managers will have access to and get better at using tools to monitor people, to assess their effort, etc. So that certainly is going to stay. There are a few things which have come, sort of attendant with this virtual method of working. One is a big focus on data security. When the person was working, within the organization, there was a environment that was assumed. So now a lot of people are working with their own machines and without the full repertoire of security provisions. So that is something organizations are getting better at managing those in a remote fashion, and also employees now are more aware of data security. That is one thing I see as a difference, and I think therefore this area of data surveillance and security is definitely going to grow. For example, I know that banks also have a lot of people are working in a remote fashion, which they were not doing. Healthcare, and they have access to a lot of confidential data. So obviously data encryption and security, this is going to be a big thing which will change. I think another thing which will change is the way we look at healthcare and hygiene. Some of the habits will stay with us. It is just like I would give the example of post 9/11. We still continue to fly, but the security, procedures at airports became different. And similarly, I would say that some of the processes, which because of the heightened awareness now of how these infections spread, I think those habits of hygiene and sanitization, some of them will stay with us. Probably public places also will enforce some of this, and certainly each individual in their own spaces, they will enforce this. I see a greater use of technology in all other sectors, because it is not possible fully, for example, for all everybody to work remotely. Obviously, factories have to run, and a lot of services have to be given by people. But a lot of that component which can be made virtual, or which can be automated so that there are less people, or the people are spaced out better. I think those things will be something we will see in the world of work. um, I see a big focus on learning. uh, you know, uh, if you see the number of webinars in the public space, if you see the number of learners and the number of new courses, and how schools and colleges have all, changed gear so fast, and the number of courses individuals are taking up. So I think it is a part of, people want to be more agile, more ready, and more responsive. They realize that the pace of change has suddenly, it was already going fast, but now it has sort of become exponential. So not only the COVID growth, rate was exponential, I think the learning curve has, become exponential in society. So I feel the learning quotient is something, individuals will track for themselves, just like organizations do. And organizations which are to do with learning, like schools, colleges, I myself represent NIIT, all of us who are in the business of learning, we have seen a big upswing in the number of learners and the hunger for learning. So a few more points I'd like to make. So one thing is, I think the demographics of society may change, and the kind of mix that we have of people working in cities and villages already. Uh, a lot of smaller towns who have the kind of technology infrastructure and are able to attract the young worker, people are realizing they do not have to be centered in only the big cities. A lot of work can be done from wherever they are, as long as the technology infrastructure exists. So that is one thing. So I think, frankly, very exciting times ahead. There will be, with technology, much more spread of people working from all sorts of different places. And the quest for learning, as I said, would work. To sum up, these are the factors. I started off with usage of technology by the employee, greater usage of technology by the manager. Uh, Third, while technology has been a driver for jobs in all the sectors, it will just accelerate the pace of change, and this will lead to the distribution of people getting changed in cities and towns and smaller places. So that is the kind of thing I see. As far as the skill clusters, I think they will remain broadly similar. The World Economic Forum in 2020 had, they had taken out these 7 clusters, which were mostly around technology areas of data analytics and AI, and also the care economy. I think those will all be the same. They will remain the same. It is just like, it is just that the pace of change will accelerate even more. So that's what I would like to say. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am has given us 4 or 5 areas where skills are required, where there are job opportunities. Now, I would like to go to Mr. Kesari, and I want his views on what he thinks, what MBA skills or what job opportunities are there for MBA students. So please, if you can enlighten students in your talk.
So thank you so much for inviting me and giving this opportunity. It is always a pleasure talking to students and talking to the society at large, and I have been doing that for quite a while. It is these students who are the future leaders of our country, and what I believe is that the lamp is in their hand, and it is they who are going to take India forward. although they have already begun that work and they have already started that. And I believe, the new world of work which we all are talking about, and I agree to Dr. Meeta also, that the new world of work is definitely unpredictable and unprecedented. And we had never, because we had never experienced and seen this before. Such circumstantial situation had never been before in terms of our own life, the time since we were born, and the time since we are in this journey of life and career. And this also has never been practiced before, this work from home, study from home, do everything from home, social distancing and all. This was not practiced in our own lifespan. I'm not talking about history. What Dr. Meeta ma'am said about the history 100 years back is correct. And you all would also not be surprised to hear that during that same 100 years back, we also had this ILO, formation of ILO. ILO is a International Labor Organization body, and it is a body which talks about employment across the country, across the globe, for every small city and every small country it talks about. And it is that time it began, and India was the founding member of it. Please do go back and read some more about it. That's quite interesting. So it doesn't mean that during that pandemic things were dull and not bright. Similarly, during the pandemic which has come up is definitely has forced all of us to get adjusted and adapted to this new normal very fast. If you look at the lockdown started somewhere in March 22nd, 23rd, and today we are sitting on somewhere around 6th, 5th of June. It is how many? It is only 2.5 months, and look at the way how we have, although forcefully, but look at the way how we have adapted to it and adjusted to it. And this is, and the new world of work which we are talking about is definitely unknown to us. But now what has happened because of this Unlock 1.0, we have started feeling that how it is going to behave in future, although still we are looking at it, and still we are waiting and watching to it. So my only say to the students is that this is such a beautiful time for all of us, although challenging. And we have always, when we do our MBAs, when we are in this institution and when we pass out, what happens that every professor who teaches and every director of the college who comes, they ask us one good thing, that what is that which has made you bring to our college? And that is that those children who take admission in these colleges, like a very good great college like NDIM, have a lot of colleagues and friends also who have been working and passed out, and I am now there are some of them who are colleagues to me in various other organizations and friends to me. The value and the principle on what this institution has been working is great for all of you. Now that part, the question which we all are now anticipating, or which is coming to my mind, and the answer for which what we need to look at is that amid this global crisis, how can we as students and as individuals make a difference? We should not wait that the world will make a difference to us. We should see that how I can contribute in making a difference for the world around me. If that world is a smaller world around you, make a difference there, then enlarge your circle, and then probably you would see that you are making a difference. Now the difference which what I am talking about is not difference on the various aspect of it, but only on the technical aspect of it or the skills of it. Like suppose wherever you are now, at least you can boost the energy of your friends, colleagues, or your students there who are studying with you, that look, this is a challenging time for us. Let us all get together, develop what are those skill sets which would be required in the organizations which are right now fighting or struggling for it. Look at the organizations today. The organizations they were always talking about the future work of world of work, the future world of work. They were talking about AI, they were talking about ML, machine learning, robotics, everything they were talking about. But what happened when the lockdown happened? What happened? These organizations whom we are talking about, they also were unable to catch the pace, and they had to suffer. You as students can think about it, that what is that new perspective for our future jobs? where my skill sets which I have, and what is that skill set which I need to possess today, will fit which place and which sector and which place also I'm talking about. Now we also now need to see that what is that new normal about. The new normal, what I would say, is more about, number one, adaptability. You have to adapt. Look at your own, the new fresh batch at NDIM. What is it doing? It has adapted itself to the new ways of studies. It is that, and that is the need of the hour. And therefore, what you start thinking about the lifestyle models that are easily adaptable. And how in this adaptability situation, how are you going to boost, motivate the people around, the family around, and of course the professors and the teachers and the directors? Because you have to now show what? You have to show efficiency. When I talk about efficiency, it means that you have to reimagine what we are referring as being efficient. You have to reimagine that how can you, study far away with social distancing, be efficient? How can you create an opportunity for your college, for yourself, for your friends? You have to keep creating that opportunity, because we all are aware of it, that every crisis brings an opportunity, and that is what Dr. Meeta also talked about, which I would also agree to it. Now, what is required then? The requirement is that you all have to be inclusive now. Inclusive means you all are one NDIM, one students, means one everybody, all together. Now, those people who have passed out of NDIM, again, you also have to think one. See, in our own domain, we say one HR. We are one HR. When we represent the HR, we say we are one HR. And that is what our CHROs have been teaching us and imparting us. Similarly, you have to also behave that you all are one. That inclusivity is very important. So you have to develop and think on a model that attaches primacy to everything. That's very, very important. And how will that happen? That will happen when you start thinking universally, holistically. When I say universally, it means that you start thinking global. If you look at your friends who are seniors to you, they have become global now. They are working almost all part of the world, including, yes, India. If you are there in touch with them, have some mentorship with them, have some learning around them, when you start thinking global and this universalism concept comes to you, you start becoming successful. And what is you now need to do, because now you are the future leaders. Therefore, you have seen that the employee experience in the new HR, which we talk about, the new human experience, the new experience which we talk about, would be very, very, employee experience which we talk about will be very new. You have to see how can you, once you pass out of the college, how can you give that experience to the team? Even if you are in the marketing team, you are in the international business team, you are in the HR, you are in the finance, how can you give a greater employee experience to the team around? That is what you have to start thinking now. Don't do the book part. Book is very important. All the courses are curriculum are very important, but please start making a difference of your own sitting wherever you are. You have to start learning and also unlearn something so that you are able to learn better skills. You have to again look at what the future leaders perspective is all about. What is that organizations are talking? Suppose, ask your seniors, you appeared in 5 interviews. What were those questions you were asked upon? What was that, you felt achievement all about? And what is that where you felt that you need to work on? So when you start doing all those things, you are building your own capability. So that is what I tell the students also, that you always start making a difference, and every human being on this earth is individual, has a unique identity, and also has a unique fundamental philosophy of life. And you have to, first embrace that, start loving yourself, and then only you will start giving what you are full of. The trainings, although, the trainings which madam also talked about, they are all, non-linear, broad-based, hybrid model, online, face-to-face on the technical tools and all. They are going to be there. You start developing the level of trust, and then individual competencies has to be increased. that will prevail. We today talk about there is hundreds of employment available. What is lacking is the skills, and that skill set sometimes pulls us back getting at an opportunity. No individual without a proper skill set going further will be able to survive. You have to have a skill, and that skill, as early as possible, you are able to absorb, learn, get, and then it will help you that this new phase which we are talking about will be reinventing. And all of you, as torch bearers of the country, will then groom into one of the finest individuals, and your institution has produced that. Even I would not hesitate. One of my senior friend, she's one of the CHROs of a company, has passed out of your college. I will not name, but yes. And what Dr. Mika has said, don't look for opportunities only in the urban sectors, look for opportunity in the rural sectors. When you look at opportunities in the rural sectors, when you look at opportunity in the NGOs sector, you will understand that how much of opportunities are there for you. And there is no dearth of good people with good skills. Every village wants one person so that they are uplifted, educated. And UNICEF, ILO, WHO, these all organizations are funding so much of money to these NGOs, so that you as torch bearers are paid so well that when you go to a village, you are able to uplift that, and finally you are educating somewhere the country. And that is my that is wholeheartedly my request is to all of you. Therefore, I would now end it with 7 points. The 7 steps for resilience which madam talked about is that: fast adapt, prepare for the next, invest in yourself, leverage online options, do your education, whatever curriculum is there. Also start doing your other areas of interest so that you build on the interest. Look around for factual information. 5, use experts for mentoring you. You have experts available in your college, your seniors. People like us are available on LinkedIn. Please reach out to us. We are there to help you and mentor you. And look the way forward with lot of positive. Don't waste this pandemic. Please use it. That is the last word I would like to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You have given a lot of different kind of input what ma'am had talked about. Now I would request Dr. Singh to tell us something about the skills and the topic of the webinar.
So thank you very much for inviting me to this NDM webinar. In fact, I had been to your campus several times in different seminars and conferences, and I always, have that feeling of lot of enthusiasm, lot of energy among students. I'm missing that, but definitely virtually also I'm feeling the same type of experience that I used to have in your campus. So thank you very much for inviting me here. So as already being told my co-panelists, Dr. Meeta and Dr. Kesri, about what are new skills you need to adapt, what are the resilience factors that need to be imbibed so that you become future ready for tomorrow. And as we know that whenever there is some unexpected event like right now we are in, or some shocks, or anything which is any eventful happening that happens in our life, it basically disrupt our habitual routines, it jolt us out of our comfort zones, and then also give us time to introspect and to ask big questions about what matters and what is worth doing today and tomorrow. So this downtime, this is crucial not only for putting on ourselves on the refresh mode, and also go for some sort of a motivational thing, but it is also for understanding and fine-tuning our cognitive processes. When I'm talking of our cognitive process, I'm talking of our perception, our judgment. What are our perceptions 2 months before this pre-COVID era? What are our perceptions right now in terms of what are the future skills we need? What will be the future job market? So it's no wonder that during this current pandemic, many and students, they are contemplating on new world of work and future jobs and these skills for tomorrow. So as we interact with many industries, like every day there may be around, somewhere close to around 5 to 6 webinars that's happening every day with industry leaders. So what I think that there are, three type of disruptions. They are occurring simultaneously at this point in time. There's disruption in business processes. There's also shifting needs with regard to skills and future jobs. And third is there are disruptions in experience that is happening. And if we go by the history, in fact, Dr. Mita told about the Spanish flu, and Dr. Kesri also mentioned about the historical past. In fact, throughout history, it has been seen that all these economic hardships, they have created windows of new different job roles and skills, which become the norm of the day in times to come. So at this point in time, my only important point of concern is that there is no need to worry at all, because the future is very prosperous, the future is very bright. At this point in time, we cannot objectively quantify we cannot even name a particular skill or name a particular jobs that will be occurring in this tomorrow. But definitely, I'm sure that with this positive mindset and all NDM students, they are highly charged up and motivated, definitely you will be able to find your own way. And as we know that right now we are in this VUCA world, wherein these businesses, they are highly volatile, there's a lot of uncertainty, complexity, there's ambiguity. So I'm adding two D's to this VUCA. One D as prefix, one D as suffix. That has actually simultaneously happened at this point in time. So this becomes D, VUCA D. So first D is about digital, and second D is about diversity. So I'll say digital, VUCA, then diversity. So the trend that we are seeing in global workplaces, as Dr. Mita said, that right now remote is the new mantra, remote working is the new mantra. So this rapid, digitalization and this technological advances, they are basically totally reshaping the business landscape. They are also supercharging performance in some industries, like in healthcare industries, and they're also enabling the emergence of new business innovations, and also there are new forms of competitions. So nowadays, there's a lot of pressure on the organizations to become agile and adaptable to respond to this emergent and continuous change. And that's how they are looking for the new skills, or they'll be basically, coming out with the new jobs so that they are able to adapt in a very, very nimble way. So what companies are saying that, and what, I also feel that the digital assets and capabilities in any organization, they are the new balance sheet. Gone are the days when the balance sheet was only about, the assets and liabilities, about the profit and loss, only about the money part. It's also about the digital assets and capabilities, and how as the future managers, we are able to manage a very, very important source of our digital assets and the capabilities our employees are having. So these are becoming the new form of competitive differentiator for innovation and disruption industries. In fact, every industry is talking about digital nowadays. And reality is about that when I'm talking of digital, it's not about only hardware and software. In fact, there is total virtualization of hardware. And it's not only about these two components, it's basically about the employee and also the end product of all these business processes, that is the customer. So technology change definitely is involved in this digitalization, but smart people, they are realizing that transformation will be ultimately about better serving the customer needs, better serving the employee needs, so that we are able to attract, we are able to motivate, retain, and engage our employees, and we are able to make our operations more effective through mass customizations and new offers that we can serve or we can offer to our new customers. So right now, what I foresee that there's a lot of sort of human and automation collaboration happening. A lot of analytics, algorithms, big data, AI, ML, a lot of things, they are basically being, they are becoming the important part of all the conversations in all these webinars. And in fact, companies are going for digital transformation in a massive way, whether it's a micro, small or medium enterprises, depending on the wherewithal, depending on the resources, everybody is in fact trying to become digital savvy, whatever their limited resources they have. And also, as we are talking of digitalization, there's a lot of hype about the big data. In fact, we have been hearing this word big data several times. In fact, we are sick of hearing this big data, but this is a very, very extremely important tool. This is the only tool or only platform in which the society is going to advance. So the only way this planet, our Earth, is going to deal with the global challenges of tomorrow, like the challenges of feeding, people, challenges of, the supply chains, of our, Medicare, or, providing energy and electricity, everything. This will be only happening because of the effective use and management of big data, and wherein your management skills will be very, very important, so that you are able to, so the point is that you need to understand that big data management, in big data management, I'm talking of how you are able to digitally transform your organization, how you are able to upskill yourself so that you are actually in sync with the company needs. That is going to be one of the most important future skills of tomorrow. So in fact, this data is taking us to this new, not only the computational science, but it has become the computational management science. So the another D I was talking about was, one was the digital, the last D I'm talking about the diversity, because the skills that is required for tomorrow is basically the skills to work with diverse set of people. Gone are the days when we'll be talking of, the regular 9 to 5 employees. We'll be dealing with, full-time employees, part-time employees. We'll be dealing with different, platforms. We'll be dealing with different type of age group of people. Now there'll be a lot of retired people who will be coming again, back to employment. So how to deal with, Gen X, Gen Y, millennials, traditionalists, baby boomers, veterans, that will be a totally different cup of tea. So we need to basically learn new skills by which we are able to make ourselves, we are able to do some sort of behavior modification, so that we are able to gel with people. It is the people management that is the important, propelling force that will basically see a better future for tomorrow. So the competitive differentiator for you will be the ability to, to manage yourself and to work in a digitally and diverse organization, and how to cope in this digital and diversity area. That is basically the new thing you need to learn. That is a new competitive differentiator that will basically make you a very, very successful, employee, or maybe the entrepreneur for tomorrow. So when I'm talking from, the HR perspective, the future jobs, the type of, people the organizations will be looking for will be, the recruiters will be looking for workers with relevant skills for specific roles. So they'll be looking for different type of, as Dr. Kesri said, that it's about your own, core differentiator. It's not about having a generalized skills. It is about you. What niche skills, or what is the niche area that you can work upon? What is your, personal or your personality that can actually change the face of the organization? They'll be looking of those capabilities and those personality attributes, rather than focusing just on the qualification parts. And as we know that the gig economy is going to, drive the wheel of economy for the tomorrow. So this shift from, full-time worker to freelancers, to contractors, to consultants, to, recruitment of retired people, that is basically expanding globally. In fact, today only we had interaction with the Secretary of Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship Development. He in fact made a very important point that the retired people are going to make a very, very important role, because they are all bubbling with, confidence, and many of their kids probably they'll be looking for new jobs. They may be out of the jobs, so they'll be again back to the business. So the point is how to deal effectively with all different diverse set of employees. That will be a new thing that you need to learn. So what I'm also saying that there'll be a lot of, evolution of the hybrid roles. And in fact, in our all discussions with, industry captains, we are seeing that, hybrid jobs, I think they are growing at twice the rate of the overall job market. So these, when I'm talking of hybrid jobs, these are somewhat, complex and multidisciplinary jobs, which often, blends your logical thinking, your organized thinking, your cognitive process, your creativity, your artistic right brain thinking. As Dr. Mida said, that the World Economic Forum has also come with the future skills, wherein the creativity, the imagination, the, your innovative mindset, that is basically the important thing that you need to work upon. So in this, age of this increased automation that is bound to happen, and it's already on the way, as there's a lot of hype around Industry 4.0. wherein we are talking of augmented reality, virtual reality, we are talking of, the cyber security, we are talking of, 3D printing, additive manufacturing, so on and so forth. So basically, the most important skills that is required for future will be your problem solving skills, your novel solutions that you can come with, and also managing diverse set of people and customers. That will be the important competitive differentiator that will define, or that will differentiate from an average to a very, very bright and successful, employee. So at this point in time, you need to, reinvent yourself, as rightly pointed by Dr. Kesri also. This is the time that you need to get going on some like new projects. You have to reinvent something. You have to cultivate your knowledge, your skills. You have to again cultivate your relationships. See, I am at the end of the day, I am a firm believer that people management is the most important thing. And how you manage people, how you build relationship, that is very, very, very important. And relationship building happens only by, it's all only about communication and legwork. So once COVID era is over, so I give you a very humble submission that at least, twice in a month, if your institution, allow you, please go outside of your college, attend some technical seminar or conference, do networking, and whenever you are out in any seminar conference, collect at least 10 visiting cards. So I'm sure that out of 10 visiting cards, one of the visiting card may in fact change your life. So that's the way by which you will be able to choose your mentor, your coach, or your teacher who can actually, unleash your hidden potential. So as an individual, we have a limited, thought process, we have our limited knowledge, but it's only the people who are outside your perspective, out of your family and relations, who will matter a lot in your future prospects and careers. Your parents have done the best, your friends, your relatives have done your best in conditioning you. But now, since you've been outside the world, it will be people outside in the market, in the industry, the mentors who will actually change your life. So you have to basically go for different sort of possibilities, do some, lot of online programs. You have to do comparing and contrasting of lot of pros and cons of all different type of, programs. You could give some advisory to some of the NGOs. Also, set up some ideas for, starting a startup. So at the end of the day, you have to basically introspect and come out with a question about with some, important answer that who am I and who do I want to become and where can I best contribute? Because we learn only who we want to become by testing fantasy and testing, reality. And of course, it's basically by doing. So doing is everything. So once you do different variety of, this permutation and combination, so that you're able to understand your actual, you are able to answer the why component, why I should do this particular job. And then you can actually, customize or dovetail your skills in that particular job or career you want to plan. So the most important thing I want to emphasize at the end is that, as rightly said by Dr. Kesri also about this never stop learning. So this triple L, lifelong learning, should be the important foundation or building block of your life. In fact, Mahatma Gandhi once said that the day I will stop learning will be the last day of my life. So lifelong learning is an essential ingredient for any successful MBA student. So this combination of, the training, mentoring from the industry, mentoring from your alumni, and coaching will basically help you to stay on learning tracks. So these informal groups of casual acquaintances outside your college also can also help you to broaden your focus and help you to gain a very, very fresh perspective. So my point, the last sentence I'll say, that this COVID, pandemic, this D, VUCA D word is basically a wake up call for everybody to get ready, to bootstrap ourselves. And if we are able to start now, we will be ready for the next epidemic, because this epidemic, I think it's just the tip of the iceberg. There are a lot of things they are in the pipeline. But once we are able to do our behavior modification of, upskilling ourselves and lifelong learning and going by the wind, I am sure that we'll be able to surmount all these challenges. And at the end, I'll say that we need to be hopeful and optimistic. Pandemic or no pandemic, just forget it. Because once when we are hopeful, when we are optimistic, we are able to see the world better and we are able to take action on it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to invite Dr. Agarwal for his views.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am, for inviting me, and good evening to everyone. I am absolutely delighted to speak to all the audience. And before I start, I share my thoughts. I wish and hope all of you and your dear ones are safe, and wish you take care of all yourselves. I will first and foremost say it is a very good start, and in fact, all my co-panelists have given a very broad view and has given an enlightenment to all the students, and this will help them in designing their course. But I will try my effort to reframe some points with a contrasting view, just to shake the belief in the present circumstances, what most of the time people take up, and then give you a guiding view based on the policy framework which is there existing in the system. So that is my approach. First and foremost, I know everybody in their mind has the topmost agenda is COVID-19. So what is its impact on global economy? What is its impact on India? And then later on, I will share how this will affect, or how to overcome this with aspects of work, jobs, or career designing. So first, what I think is the question comes to your mind is, how bad is the impact on the economy? What are the scenarios for recovery, and whether there will be any lasting structural impact on the crisis? So in reality, if you see the projections and indices, that won't answer these questions. And most of the time, people make their beliefs or perceptions out of these indices. So GDP forecast is a dubious, especially when the virus trajectory is unknown. The effectiveness of containment efforts is unknown. The consumers and companies or firms' reactions are unknown. So in such circumstances, making a projection out of some global financial markets like BSE index or NSE index won't be a correct way of understanding the COVID impact. So this is first and foremost I would like to say. So it might seem to you that world economy is in the recession, but believe me, the recession risk is absolutely real, but let us not take it as a foregone situation conclusion. Second, the financial markets are a relevant recession indicator. History has often shown that the markets do not necessarily lead to recession. So you need not to worry if our meltdown is there in the financial markets. So it will be continue, and it has been in the scene in the past also that it has revived. So now let us understand what is it going to impact on India. Of course, a lot of will depend on what extent India can contain this spread of the virus. The good news is that we have a large domestic economy, and the dependence on the exports is not really high. So this is a very good opportunity for us. The risk, of course, is that the economy was weakening even before the crisis. So we need not to blame everything to the COVID-19. It was there in the system where we had a thinking to mitigate this type of crisis, and we could have comorbidity. India has to move the focus now from the lives to lives and livelihoods, and these are in many cases intervened. The government should be applauded, as they have done a decisive job in closing the borders and locking down the country, and now a similar kind of resolve should be shown to stop the economy from stalling. A big risk is a breakdown in the credit line, which could lead to severe liquidity crisis, a high number of bankruptcies, and several job losses. So this is quite a challenge which I anticipate from the perspective of present circumstances. Now, things which will be different after COVID-19, if you see, now it is very important to understand that recession are generally cyclical in nature and not structural. The boundary can be blurred. History also suggests that the global economy after a major crisis like COVID-19 will be different in a number of significant ways. The first is, if you look at it from the lens of the microeconomy, a crisis can spur the adoption of new technologies and business models. like the case of SARS in 2003, often credited with the adoption of online shopping among the Chinese consumers, which was really resulted in Alibaba's rise. This could have a similar impact in our country also. So need not to worry from the COVID-19, it can have a positive impact. And similarly, if you see with the school systems, schools have closed in many parts of the world, but e-learning and e-delivery of the education see a smart breakthrough. Digital efforts in Wuhan to contain the crisis via smartphone trackers is again a demonstrable public health tool. So those kind of things are getting evolved out of such emergency situations. So we have to look from those angles. That is when you look at from the macroeconomic perspective, even before the crisis, the world was moving away from globalization. So it is not that we are now moving out of the globalization. We don't want to be in the globalization competition because it has become a tilted type of globalization. So we need, now the forces are towards anti-globalization. If you see with the market sentiments also, there is an anti-Chinese product kind of sentiment is there in the consumer. So those kinds of things are there even in the government political scenario, political level also. Such kinds of sentiments are there where anti-globalization directions are being taken up. So what is the future of the work, jobs or careers? This is the question which you must be thinking about. Now the work from home is something which was very archaic in the older times, but now it has become a manifestation in almost all types of services. So it is very similar to like when computerization of the services started. It was initially thought that computer will not survive, but now over the period of time, if you see, computer has entered into all types of domains. So similar is the thing, ki work from home, which is a kind of a service delivery or kind of a way of doing the work, it has become a norm in the system. So initially we were also skeptical about the work from home culture, but believe me, technology has enabled us. And in my organization, I am a government employee. I am working for the Department of Public Enterprises. Most of the staffs are working from home on alternate days. 33%, 50% staffs are always there from the work from home, and they are available on the mobile as well as on the laptops or as well as any kind of electronic communication by which they are taking the services or giving their services, taking the orders, giving their services. Everything is being seamlessly handled. Maybe in initial hiccup, there are slower delivery has gone slow, but over the period of time, you will see that they will rebound back with the same speed, with the same delivery schedules. So that will happen because it is a learning phase where people are getting acquainted with a new way of working. So even if you see with the present circumstances, why this has been enabled, why this kind of technology enableness is there, because our computer is now more, computing power has increased, device connections has increased. We have been able to utilize cloud computing. There are so many developments in blockchains, RPAs. So these are actually redefining the man-machine interface. So because of these enabling features which was there, but earlier there was a resistance to adopt them, but now because of this emergency situation, this has gained a rather faster adoption into the system, is really helpful for the whole organization, whole system to change. The other is the entry of the digital natives in the workplace. This is a generation which has grown up in the world that feels much flattened due to the way technology connects people, allows for immediate responses, and a whole new way of collaborations. The implications of the combination on jobs and careers is tremendous. Believe me, this is a very innovative way of working, and this is sometimes being liked by many people because some of the employees love to have a dog beside them, sitting and leisurely doing the work from home. So these things are sometimes being very liked by the employees. So this has a really other side of the working where people enjoy this also. The entry of the digital natives in the workplace, if you see McKinsey Global Institute estimates that 60 to 65 million jobs in our country could be created through a productivity surge in the next few years, while at the same time redeployment by essentials to help 40 to 45 million workers whose jobs are likely to be displaced or transformed by technology. So you can imagine that there is already a way forward towards technology-driven services. If I were to generalize a bit, then routine and mono-skill roles will be replaced by specialists, inside drive-ins, or multidisciplinary roles. So this is a cue that you can take up. Now mono-skill disciplines will, mono-skill personals or executives will not be required. They will be required to take up multidisciplinary roles. So those people, those candidates who take up multiple types of jobs will be in high demand. Skills like creativity, empathy, collaboration will be gain more prominence, as will be the requirement of the hardcore data scientists, designs, systems, and thinking talents. This is the core area where everybody needs to focus, because this will be the new future for career enhancement. If I pick a very simple example, the conventional jobs like a salesperson will remain, but what will change? It will be supported by the technology, which will enable him to customize assortment for each of the millions of the stores in the country. So if I have a clientele of 100, I will be designing the assortment for all 100 clients. So that will be enabled by my technology, because he will be monitoring how much consumption is there, what kind of consumption is there. So then salesperson will be responsible for designing the assortment. What assortment will fit to the requirement of the client, which will attract him. So those kind of new ways of working will come into the picture, which will be technologically driven, as well as require a high skilled professionals who can take such kinds of challenges. But at the same time, if you see timeless skills of building nurturing relationship with the customers, creativity at the point of purchase, this will also boost the changes or the delivery system. So how you interact with the client, how you nurture them, or how you bring out new changes, how you make their purchasing new phenomenon, that will also pave a way towards career enhancement. So this is another way. Then how do you plan for the careers in this area? First and foremost, ladies and gentlemen, take charge of your career now. The days of patriarchal organizations that made decisions on behalf of people career are long over. Second, careers do not view them solely from the lens of the vertical progression. Look at adding diversity of experiences, acquiring new skills. Literacy will no longer be about learning to read and write, but it will be about learning, unlearning, and relearning. India needs great managers and great entrepreneurs. Believe me, this is the requirement. This is the time that you think on those lines to be a great leaders, great managers, as well as great entrepreneurs. A tabulous case is also on the older times. People with the money could think of becoming entrepreneurs, but today's scenario has changed. People who have an idea, has an innovative idea, can think of developing a business or becoming an entrepreneur, because fund is available through VC mode. So those things have changed. Now, if you have an idea, if you have a innovative way of working, then you can think on those lines also. Develop your own career, develop your own business, develop a place where you will give more jobs or jobs to the others rather than seeking jobs. So look at adding diversity of experiences, acquiring skills, and then what are the challenges in campus recruitment and how to plan ahead. So in this, I will first and foremost like to give you a picture of the current status. You will see disruptions at all campuses, inter alia, premier institutes like IITs, IIMs, where companies are holding back placement processes, delaying or deferring offers, and sometimes even withdrawing offers. So it is not that this particular campus is facing the challenge or that particular campus is facing, it is across the boundaries also. I will suggest a three-pronged approach to deal with this situation. One would be the statesman approach, another would be the institutional approach, and third would be the self-help approach. So in the first approach, I will suggest that a candidate to survey the statesman approach of the company, not yours, it is of the company, along with the balance sheet performance reports of the employer, whom you want to select as your employer, or you want to choose him as your employer. So current scenario, if I see with the data which I have gathered, TCS, Google, Wipro, Capgemini, Tech Mahindra, Accenture, PepsiCo, PayU are honoring their job offers made to the campus hires despite weak revenue outlook caused by the spread of COVID-19 pandemic. So you need not to worry. There are so many companies which are honoring their offers. So you need to find those companies only. FMCG majors like Godrej, PepsiCo, Biocon, HUL, consultancy firms like Boston, BCG, Bain & Company, and McKinsey, or in banks like ICICI, Kotak Mahindra, Citi, Axis are also honoring their job offers. Then comes the Cognizant, which will bring on board 20,000 fresh recruiters into their fiscal year. Flipkart has assured that its employees that it will not slash salaries and honor all the job offers extended. Global companies like SAP, Morgan Stanley, Salesforce, Palo Alto, Networks, PayPal, Citigroup, JP Morgan, Bank of America, and Booz Allen Hamilton have taken a 90 days pledge of no layoff, where they will not lay off any person throughout the year. Sectors including banking, financial services, insurance, retail, and logistics, where a lot of frontline hiring takes place, are likely to witness a delay in the offers made to graduates. Uber have revoked job offers even to the IIM graduates, MDI, SPGen. Oilfield services providers like Petrofac has resigned 5 placement offers. Gartner Work India resigned its final placement. Schlumberger, the world's largest oilfield service company, wrote to the IITs on April 6 that it has decided to reduce and withdraw some internship. So why I'm suggesting the second approach, that is the institutional approach, it is because an offer withdrawn is psychologically damaging more than the offer that was never made to a prospective employee. Thus, by an institutional approach, I request the training placement officers of the Management Institute to ensure that they are actively engaged in the communication and negotiation with the industries, and take ample care that the companies don't withdraw their offers at any stage after commitment to their students. And I am myself a management graduate, and I find that there is no dearth of job opportunities for a trained management graduate, come what may be the situation of external employment. If the management learnings are properly applied, one can be an asset to the system in creating more jobs as an entrepreneur. The management institutes like NDIM provides a holistic environment to enable the students to learn management fundamentals, to deal with complexity, speed, or any kind of favorable or unfavorable adversities. Most important are the skills that you acquire at these institutes that make you ready to undertake any business or any job opportunity. So thus I propose the third approach also, which is a self-help approach where students can develop its own business or entrepreneur. He needs to look around, and you will find that world sentiments are most favorable under present circumstances, where made in India will be a norm in the future. The government has been an enabler for a decade or so. By the MSME Act 2006, the government of India has mandated 25% public procurement from MSEs, including 3% from the women entrepreneur. So if you take that route of developing yourself as an MSME, micro, small or medium enterprises, you will be getting an assured business from the public sector companies. Further relaxation on qualifications like turnover, EMDs, etc. are also provided under the Startup India mechanism through Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Central public sector enterprises are spending more than 3,500 crore annually on socio-economic activities through CSR funds under their CSR policies of Companies Act. These activities mainly focus on healthcare, education, and nutrition. Thus, many niche opportunities can be dovetailed with the framework and evolved into a business. This is another opportunity for you where you can look forward for developing your acumen. There is another national policy on agriculture promotion, which is known as Farmers Producer Organization, FPO, and FPO gets a grant of around 27 lakhs at zero interest from the government of India, where support organizations help these FPOs in developing different business operations. So here is also one opportunity for the management graduates to enter and help the agricultural system to improve their performance. Under Atal Innovation Mission, Government of India has set up incubation centers. India has the third highest number of startup incubators, where 51% are run by the academic institutes, including IIT Delhi, IIT Kanpur, IIT BHU, IIM Lucknow, KNIT Sultanpur, and rest are supported by corporates, individuals, and government. Another policy which is of Ministry of Commerce and Industry is industrial park policy. It is also by the different states also, which promote development of industries, where initial thrust is given in the form of tax saving jobs and infrastructure and logistical supports. So these are the areas in which you can focus upon and look forward to develop your acumen in the form of self-help group. So these are the three modes which I suggest. The thing which I found the most promising sectors could be agriculture, healthcare, supply chain, FMCG, electronics and IT, toy industry, pharmaceuticals, education and learning. Thus, with this insight, I hope you will find no reason to be afraid from the surreal monster that is the coronavirus. The human mankind is going to survive. It has survived other disasters like SARS, influenza, Spanish flu, etc., and rebound with vigor and enthusiasm to roost the challenges. The young generation like you can gain adequate skills and need not to be worried. You have to balance between your perception and attitude to judge the opportunity and make it a favorable plunge. The horizon is unlimited. I thank you all for patiently listening to me. And I know Professor Sombala is flagging me to close my session, but I was having some important points to discuss and share with my audience. So that's why I've taken a little bit ahead of my time. And with this, I thank you and give a best of luck to everyone, each one of you. Thank you.
So much, sir, for giving such an exhaustive, informative advice to the student, which is really needed, which will make them more goal-oriented and which will make them prepare and be serious about their studies and about the future of their workforce. So now, before I go to the question and answer sessions, I would like to thank all the expert panelists for making this topic very interesting, very relevant, and very informative for the student also, not only for the student, but as well as for the faculty also. So I'd like to thank everyone. Now I will take up with the question and answer sessions. So the first question is very common or generic, but which is quite relevant. So that is why I am taking up this first session. The question is given by Mr. Anand. Which sectors will boom after COVID-19? Which is very generic, but this question is very relevant and is common to everyone also. So I would request Dr. Nita and Dr. Jatinder sir to address this particular question.
Right. Thank you, madam. In fact, the sectors that are going to boom is the EdTech, the education technology in a large way. Second sector is the IT and ITES. As I told you, that digitalization is a new norm. That is again going to make a big headway. The third sector is the healthcare and medical devices. Healthcare, again, the pharmaceutical, there are three components of healthcare: the drugs, the vaccines, and medical devices. All these three components will again boom. And similarly associated with them, the supply chain and all those logistics management will again boom. The fourth important sector will be the BFSI industry, because there are a lot of jobs given to the banks, to the NBFCs also to boost, bring liquidity in the economy. So a lot of job opportunities will happen in NBFCs and in banking industry also. And the fifth sector that I think the most another sector that is going to boom is about the emotional intelligence, in the sense the behavioral sciences, because right now many big corporate entities, they are looking for some of the people who can actually keep or glue all people together. So this emotional intelligence component, the behavior, the change management specialist, that is the need of the hour in the coming times.
Dr. Nita, please. Okay, now I will. Okay, yes, ma'am, please.
Yeah, thank you. So I agree with Dr. Jatinder, because education and healthcare, these are of course basics and will grow and continue to grow. And so these are definitely, I would put number 1 and 2 on the list. And technology enables all this. So technology, all technology fields, and especially those which enable communication, collaboration, analytics, so that they enable the others to function. So that I would put at the third thing. And fourth, of course, all services. In fact, a lot of services have been customize with the help of technology. And I find nowadays so many small businesses which are using platforms, even like WhatsApp, Facebook, etc., to reach out to a lot of customers. So these are, I would say, the top of the ones which I would put.
And
the
also
human
one of these
factor-
sectors, yeah, sorry, one of the sectors like e-retail, that is also going to be a big boom.
Yes, yes. So actually, in fact, another point I was going to add, which you also said about the human factors, because with a lot of use of technology, people suddenly also realize the gap of having things customized and the human touch. So I would say that whatever small customized things which can offer that kind of an experience. So customer experience, digital selling, all these things help actually with their tools for bigger firms to customize their offerings for the individual customer. So that is again going to be a very big area. Thank you.
Next question is from Anisha. She says that work is changing, skill required for future works are also changing. So what would be the top 3 demanded skill that a fresher should focus so to meet the future needs?
Should I go ahead?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, the first thing is agility. You saw how we have to quickly change, and even big businesses are changing their models, because this COVID thing was nobody could have foreseen. So agility, resilience, like a lot of the speakers, Dr. Agarwal, in fact everybody, Mr. Keshri, Dr. Jatinder, have talked about, the strength in you, discover the strength in you, motivate yourself. So I would say resilience and basic analytical and conceptual skills, and creativity and empathy for all mankind. I think these are the core things I would put. Yeah.
So I second this, whatever like Professor Mita said, she has rightly pointed out. And most important thing, the empathy she has mentioned. These empathy skills are very, very important. Normally, we forget the emotional component of people management. In fact, at the end of the day, it is all about the connections that we make with people, how employer-employee relations, how industrial relations work. That is the only the component is the empathy. So having or getting mastery or becoming a student of the behavioral sciences or psychology or empathy, I think that is also the lead of yeah.
Thank you. Now I would like to ask a question to Mr. Keshri that the jobs are becoming more data oriented and technology focused. Do you think traditional jobs and skills would have less takers or companies would take them less, or it is going to be multi-skilled?
See, what I would say, it will be a mix of both, because if you really look at the data analysis, the data analytics which is talked about, or the big data which has been explained to us, it is taking time. It will take time, and therefore a mix of both kind of experiences would be seen in the job market across and the global sectors wherever we go into. When we look at the data analytics, it is more towards those strategies which needs to be made, right? That's the first part of it. But made for whom and done by whom? The execution part. There, the execution part would be people who would not be required into the data analytics part, but to do the execution of that work. So similarly, what I feel is that it is going to be a mix of both, and therefore we would really, they will not be in a dearth of any job or any sector we talk about, the data analytics which we are talking about would definitely be used for decision making, but execution, deliverables, and all those stuff of work would be these people who are the other set of people who would be taking care. But when you are growing, when the trend is growing, and when you are growing, the digitalization of all the resources which is happening, it is good to start having a analogy on the data, because AI, when you talk about AI, is nothing but the algorithm of all the data assembled together, and it gives an output to us which helps us that now we have to behave in this manner in order to survive or in order to grow. So similarly, one set of people can look at people analytics, data analytics, and all those stuff. One set of people can look at deliverable and execution in a manner which is easily accessible, easily reachable, and easily understood by most of the people in the country. Because we are not only talking about the urban sector, we are also talking about the rural sector.
Right.
So therefore,
Right. So there is a balance between the two, which is required.
and it will remain like that.
Sure. And I would like to ask all panelists to give 2 MBA skills which they feel their industry would look for in the near future. So each panelist, we could start with
I would like to go by. See, I'll tell you. We hire interns. When we hire interns, what is the output we require? Let me talk as a manager HR. I have hired a HR person. Now, what is the output which I require from the person whom I have? Let it be any gender. I will not be. It's a world, where diversity has been, and we all are promoting it also. The 3 expectation of the person who has been hired as an intern. I'm talking about internship. Number 1 is that the person should be computer savvy. When I say computer savvy, it doesn't mean that the person should know where is A, B, C, D. The person should be good at typing speed. Means he should or she should know that how to cultivate that speed of writing. Now that writing with the technical skill of content developing, that is one part of the necessity which that students needs to learn. Content developing, number 1. Number 2 is the MS Word. MS Word we talk about, MS Excel we talk about, and MS Microsoft presentations we talk about. I ask these students who are with me that please make a Word document, make an Excel presentation, and also make a presentation which is there. So when I start giving this work to these people, what happens? I most of the times face difficulties in getting that work out of them. Even so that skill is very important for them. So entire skill around it. Data interpretation is very important. That's the third part of it. So any data, they should be aware about interpreting that data. Because in the MBAs, I have also studied MBA, so I know what is the logic of data interpretation. That data interpretation logic has to be there, means every student has to be logical. So those are the 3 things which I would suggest.
Thank you.
I suggest 2 important things. One is the project management skills, because we are very good in making strategies, we are very good in making plannings, but execution is a totally different cup of tea. So one is the project management skills, and third is the design thinking skills, because the design is going to be totally different in this COVID and post-COVID area. So how to basically customize different tools, customize the needs of the employees as well as customers. That's going to define your success in the future.
Right. Keeping users essential. Yeah. Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Meeta.
So
In your sector,
a learning solutions company. So the 2, if I had to choose 2, which is difficult, you test for 4, 5 things.
Right.
Recruiting, but I'm just selecting 2. One is on communication front, because we take a lot of people for developing learning content.
Okay.
So good communication where you are able to absorb something, process it, and put it. So a bit of what just now Mr. Keshi said about Word, but little more, as in putting it in a sometimes summarizing, sometimes presenting, whatever. But the entire thing of content development. And the second thing, again, a similar point which he said. I would say a technology proficiency, where one is of course using the tools, and again I'm enhancing little more, sir, building upon what you said, of that appreciation of tools and what is required for what, and learning new tools as required, because new things keep coming up. Every 6 months in every area we are having new tools. So the person should have that love of technology and learn to use them.
Yeah, I wanted to keep it raw, so I mentioned that.
So I could build upon what you said.
Yeah.
Use
right.
that.
Right.
Thank you.
So thank you. And Dr. Nitin, if you would like to add your take on the MBA skills, just 2 major skills which you feel that students should target at?
I will say most of the things have been very well said by our co-faculty, co-panelists. So I find the data management would be a very tedious way of dealing the things, because a lot of data is being created at across multiple platforms. So that could be a huge challenge to walk through the data sets available in different platforms and make out, cull out information and plan or make some kind of interpretations. So that would be another challenge. Then obviously, since data skill is will be more prominent, so report writing and presentation skills, I foresee these may be very much relevant in the current scenario, because sometimes we are also recording video lectures and all those things.
Right.
So until unless we have that aptitude to deal with these type of technologies and how to interact in webinars or e-learning modes or e-interactions, so those kind of skill set may be required. Then obviously in management, most of the times we are working in a project mode. Most of the things are given as a project mode. So it is very well said by Dr. Singh. We actually require, because even if you see with the government of India's prerogative also, they have moved from planning, earlier it was a planning commission, now it is an ETIO. So they are giving the projects with demarcated deliverables expectations. So now everything has focused on project delivery, project mode. So those skills are actually, I also support this is required.
Okay.
Then one soft skill which I also suggest my colleagues, young colleagues should adopt is the attitude. So because technology is actually a disruption, and most of the time we are not very well acquainted how the other person is reacting or how the situation of the other person is. So sometimes it becomes very difficult to judge what would be his scenario. Sometimes you have made a small call to him, but he has not responded. You will feel that this is an office hour or this is a working hours which has been allocated, but why he has not picked up. So those kind of things should not be there. At the same time, the other person should have that mindset. I have to operate in a flexi time mode. So whenever call comes up, maybe at an odd hours or at a office hours, so I have to address, because now I am at the liberty of managing my personal life intertwined with my professional life.
Right.
So that kind of attitudinal change is required.
Sure. So it feels very positive to hear all of you share these skills from your sector. And I'm really happy to share that we have been doing that for our students, be it in terms of data management skills, interpretation skills, new technologies like Power BI, Tableau, R, Python, even communication skills and corporate skills, empathy, design thinking. These are some of the areas that we are already offering to our students. So, and also we are happy to share that I think about 90-95% of the companies have not revoked their SIPs and even final placements, which is a very positive sign for us. And our students are currently doing their internship in best of companies, and they're all learning, at hands with great stalwarts like you and other industry professionals. And one more question from me, and then Dr. Sombala can take over. How important it is for MBAs or future MBAs to have responsible digital footprints? I mean, as HR professionals yourselves, does it matter when you're hiring people?
Increasingly, yes, we do look at it, because and that's happening worldwide. So I would say youngsters have to be careful as to what kind of footprints, because that's how we are planning what kind of persons they are.
I will add to Dr. Mitra's. Actually, what I foresee over here, I'm working for a national organization. Maybe I would rather say it as a Ministry of Heavy Industry. Over here, we are doing a lot of trainings for corporate organizations. So now the KPIs with respect to HR trainings have come into our forte also. So we are digitizing the outputs of the training to know what kind of achievements which we have received out of it. So similar way of fashion is coming. There is a MOU guidelines by Ministry of Heavy Industry with more than 300 CPSEs, where they have been directed to undertake various technological interventions also, or adoptions also. So those kind of things are coming into the HR domain also. So I support what Dr. Mitra has said. It is very much required that HR professionals also adopt to the technology as well as data-driven approach, because now it is more towards the data-driven at the government perspective, what I foresee. So that will percolate down to the lower level, to the organizational levels also. So that is for sure.
And you know what, I would say that, it enhances the employee experience.
Yes.
Because the employee experience is something which is the most important aspect of any organization. And this enables the HR people to bring in a new set of experience to these people, that is why it is very important. Okay, when we are doing all these things, I happen to know one of the saying, by Mark Twain. Mark Twain is an American author and humorist, and he's also known by the name so much of good professors, teachers, and the mentors there. And I wish all the best to all of you. And it was an enlightening session for me also. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, all of you, sir, for addressing all the student queries. Our chairman sir also joined. Now I would like thank you, sir, for joining. I would like to invite our chairman sir. So let me introduce our chairman sir to all the distinguished panelists and the student. Dr. D.M. Bansal, Chairman, New Delhi Institute of Management, is a former civil servant and has been the youngest and the longest serving secretary, collector, commissioner, principal commissioner, and director of India's biggest statutory urban body, DDA, Government of India, for 28 years. Thank you, sir, for joining, and I request sir to give word of thanks to.
No, thank you, Sombala, for giving me the opportunity of thanking such learned speakers today. I must say, a session, and the entire session was very useful, I'm sure, for the students, for all the participants, for the academia. I'm seeing comments of lot of professors from various universities. And, since 6 o'clock, I too have been hooked to what everybody has been speaking. And it's been a tremendous learning for me too. And I'm sure all my colleagues, all the faculty here has also enjoyed and learned a lot out of what you people said. I mean, you have really shown the word of tomorrow. And most remarkably, you have also given a big hope to everybody. You have taken away a lot of pressure from everybody's mind that's been created by COVID. All of you, I must say, all of you have been very positive, very, very positive, that this is an opportunity time and not a time for distress. So I'm thanking you very much on behalf of the college. I'm so very happy to listen to each one of you. And finally, I convey my grateful thanks for each one of you to have spared so much of your time and for all your love for the college. I'm really grateful. Thank you so much. Keep connected.
Thank you.
Stay connected. Keep on guiding us. And thank you so very much. Thank you, everybody. Most of you have been coming to the campus quite a lot. And I would request that, yes, whenever the times now improve, we will be coming back in any case. But let us stay connected, because whatever you people speak, students really take that as a final word. And today's word of all of you have been very positive, very encouraging. And I'm sure they'll open a lot of more windows in everybody's mind. Thank you very much, each one of you. I'm extremely grateful on behalf of the college.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much, everybody. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Right. Thank you so much. And
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Tina.
you. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Madhu ma'am.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Madhu ma'am. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Madhu ma'am. Thank you, Sombala ma'am.
Thank you, Sombala ma'am. And thank you, Tina ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Thank you, Dr. Meeta. And thank you, Dr. Keshri.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you, all.
I,
It was
I,
a
am, I am yet to become a doctor. I
Next
am
time
still-
you will
Okay.
be, Mr. Keshri. Yes. And
So I
for
give
our
you
students,
advance
Mr. Keshri, if you could share that CHR or a friend's name, they'll connect with them on LinkedIn. I mean, you were sharing a CHRO from NDIM.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
that- yeah?
I will.
If you could
I will share
yeah.
with Dr. Bansal. I'll share it
Sure,
with
sure.
Dr. Bansal.
All right.
I will definitely.
Right,
I will.
right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.